Hey everybody, Shane here. Of course, this is the first edition of the Shane Pinson Show. Doing a just going to do an interview series with some YouTube personalities. Mostly, we're going to be doing members of the, as you all know, the Wolfpack Hangout Club. We'll expand it in later dates to include other people. I think we got Nick Bravo at a later date. I think we have Nari Rants at a later date, hopefully. And so we'll start this out. I would say, that this guy right here we're picking to interview is probably one of the most controversial gentlemen on the internet, and but the most hated also, which is kind of a funny thing. So, you love him, you hate him, whichever. VonHelton.
Hey, here I be.
Well, Ron, I have to say, I'm gonna throw this. Let's just pull the bullshit out of the way already. So, why do you think you're the most hated man on YouTube?
Why do I think I'm the most hated man on YouTube? Probably because I'm trying to get the truth out to people, and there's certain people and groups that don't want that truth to be revealed. And so they send these legions of useful idiots to come and harass the fuck out of me so that I will try to be silenced. Of course, now here we've been since, even since the 1990s, trying to run me off, and it ain't worked yet. So I think maybe it's high time they just figure they ought to give up, because I ain't going nowhere.
Right. So you should actually think it's like what's the word I'm looking for? A collective effort to get rid of you and silence you?
Absolutely, I do. Absolutely, I do. If this was just a simple matter of somebody hating me, why didn't they just block me and move on? I mean, that's what normal people do.
Right.
So yeah, this is a concerted effort to try and run me off the internet because of what I'm trying to tell people.
Right.
And, there's certain individuals and groups that do not want that information to get out. And I alluded to that in my latest video that I got posted. But, but that, I do believe that. Yeah, I absolutely do. Now, some of them might be paid government shills. Others just might be useful idiots that go along to get along.
Right.
But the truth of the matter is that they're all working at the behest of individuals or groups who are trying to silence me for what I'm talking about.
Right. Well, I guess my biggest, let's just start from the beginning. Where were you born?
Hamilton, Ohio. I was born there, raised there, till about 20-something, let's see, was it my 20s or my 30s I come down here to Kentucky? Anyway, no, it had to have been 30s because of my stint in the Army. So I did my stint in the Army, and then hold on just a second. I gotta shut my door. my kids and my mother-in-law are in there just going at it.
Yeah, no problem. Having technical difficulties for a minute, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, there we go.
Okay.
That should be a little better.
Okay. Well, you had kind of an amazing thing happen to you, didn't you, when you were born? If you want to tell everybody that doesn't know about that.
I did indeed. Me and you shouldn't be talking right now, because back in 1963, medicine wasn't all that great. Okay. And it turns out that I was born with an extremely large hole in my heart. Now, today, there's medicines that you can give, and you can put the kid on heart-lung machines and, keep the child alive until that hole gets small enough to where they can be released and actually live a normal life, right? But this is 1963. We didn't have all that fancy stuff that we have today.
Right.
Okay, so my chances of surviving were pretty much zilch, and that's exactly what happened. According to my own mother, I was blue. I was given to her to take home and basically bury. Instead, though, what she done was she took me to a church and this was witnessed by at least 500 people, if not more. She put me on the altar, and she said, God, if you want him to live, let him live. If you don't, you don't.
Mm-hmm.
And immediately the color came back, and I went from blue to pink again. I started crying, obviously, flailing about, like kids do. And that was witnessed, like I said, the whole congregation of the church witnessed that. And so I'm here for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here for a reason. And there's too many witnesses to deny that it occurred.
Right.
So if the trolls don't like the fact that I'm a miracle baby, they can kiss my red ass.
Right. Well,
Witnesses.
right. So as you were growing up, did you have a really easy childhood, a good childhood? I mean, how was your formative years when you got into school and so I guess you went to high school, to elementary and middle school and high school, I guess, in Hamilton.
No, well, no, actually I didn't. I went to elementary school in what they call 7 Mile, which was way out past Hamilton.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know if 7 Mile exists. It's probably a ghost town by now.
Right.
I did my elementary in 7 Mile, and middle school now I did in Hamilton.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, high school I went. And it's funny because I just got into high school as a transition from Hamilton Taft into Hamilton High School, which doesn't sound like that big of a deal, but it went from the Taft Tigers to Big Blue.
Mm-hmm.
And Big Blue basically didn't even have a mascot, whereas Taft Tigers did. Their totem was a tiger. And so there was kind of a transition there, and I guess there was a reason for that too. I don't fully understand it, but we all transition into different things, so maybe that was what it was about.
Right.
But my high school days were really confusing because I mean I did a stint with the druggies, I did a stint with the Brainiacs. I was in the chess club, but yet I was hanging out with the stoners listening to rock and roll. So I mean, I pretty much covered the bases, man. I hung out with anybody and everybody.
Right.
But as a youth, I was especially in elementary school, I was picked on because I had 4 extra teeth in my mouth, and it wasn't wisdom teeth; it was canines.
Right.
And my mother, my dear sainted mother, using old-fashioned wisdom, said, well, it's got to be those teeth that he's being picked on. So she had those teeth yanked out, put braces in my mouth, had all my teeth squished together. That ain't why they were picking on me, though. They were picking on me because I was just a hair above them in intelligence, and they didn't like that.
Right. Well, let me ask you this: how going along with that same kind of path there, what kind of student were you?
Shitty. I was constantly bored out of my skull.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, the teachers and the principals even come to me, what's wrong with you? We know you're an intelligent kid. What's wrong with you? I said, I'm bored, man. I'm bored out of my tree. They would sit to, I go to civics class, and it's the same old shit, different day that I'd already known about and already, covered. Before I even went into school, I was reading Shakespeare. I was reading, Edgar Allan Poe. I was reading Arthur Conan Doyle. I was reading all kinds of stuff. I even read Ben Franklin's books. So I was way ahead of the game as far as that was concerned. And so, I got into school and I was just bored. Once I found stuff that I liked doing, I aced it. But it was finding stuff that I enjoyed doing.
What was that? What was the things that you found that you enjoyed doing in school?
Science. I was into dinosaurs before dinosaurs was cool. I could name you all of the dinosaurs, spell the names correctly, and tell you even what time period they were all in. I can't do that shit now, but I could back then.
Back then, yeah.
And so yeah, I was into dinosaurs before dinosaurs were cool. But one of my favorites was the Ankylosaurus. I thought you probably thought I was going to say T-Rex, right? No, Ankylosaurus. And the reason I say Ankylosaurus is because he looked like a turtle, but he had this big ass battering ram for a tail. It was awesome.
Yeah. Right.
But anyways, and then of course there was Iguanodon, which had opposable thumbs. Hello. I liked that dinosaur real well. But yeah, I liked the Ankylosaurus. I thought he was pretty cool, man, because he was like a tank, And like I said, my school life was many and varied, man. I tried my best to relate to everybody that I could. Tried to be friends with everybody that I could.
Right.
Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't.
Well, did you talk about family and school or anything like that? How did you play football, and your father like that, or did you play any sports?
I tried for sports, but at the time I was very thin, very sick, very emaciated.
Right.
And so sports wasn't really happening for me. But I tried anyway, because I didn't want to be labeled as either a coward or as a wimp. So I tried anyway. Of course, I tried out for football as what they called a Y back then. I don't even know if they still use that term.
Probably wide receiver now, but I'm not too familiar with the term either. But.
Yeah, I don't. But it was called a Y back then, and I tried out for that position on football. And of course, I got creamed because here's these big, humongous bruisers, and here's little tiny shrimpy me, But I made the attempt. I got out there and I tried.
Yeah,
and
tried.
Nobody couldn't say that I didn't do my best or that I didn't try.
Right.
But and I tried for basketball. Of course, I was too damn short for that. Wasn't big or bulky enough for football.
Right.
Now tennis, I didn't do too bad at, but the tennis teacher left, or got transferred, or moved out, or whatever the hell. Had an epiphany and went to a mountaintop. I don't know what the fuck happened to the tennis. but anyway, just I was kicking ass in tennis, and tennis teacher up in fucking splits. So I was like, God damn.
Not a golfer either, I guess. At that time, if they had golf.
Well, at the time I was a kid, and kids do not have the patience for golf, because you got to sit there and you got to study that shit, and you got to check your wind direction and all that shit. I wouldn't have had the patience for that. No fucking way. No way.
Right.
No way.
Are you an only child, or do you have siblings or whatever?
Yes and no. I have a sister who is from my mother's sister. If you
have to explain that a little bit.
All right. My mother's sister had a daughter. And for whatever reason, she gave her up for adoption to my mother to raise as her daughter. So she's an adopted daughter. She's not my blood. And in fact, she is a Galt. Because you go by the father, For lineage, you go by the father. And so her father was a Galt. So she wasn't even a Frost, let alone a Helton. And so, she wasn't anything to me, even remotely, as far as that goes.
Right. So she was basically your cousin / sister, basically.
Something like that, yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Now your father was a Helton, of course, and what did he do for a living?
He was United States Navy all during World War II. In fact, he was on what they call a fast frigate. And so he literally got to see every major naval campaign in World War II. And I begged him. I said, my God, Dad, please go talk to Ollie North over at Fox News. Get your stories saved for perpetuity. And he wouldn't do it. Now, think about it. This is a man that saw every major naval campaign in World War II. The stories he could tell would have been phenomenal. And he wouldn't do it, man. Oh, he wouldn't do it.
Of course, I assume he's passed on.
Oh, a long time ago. Yeah, many years ago now.
Okay.
And blockages in all of his arteries, man.
Oh, man, that's bad. Yeah. So your mom was a Frost, I guess, or was she a...
Yeah, she was a Frost.
Frost. That's where that comes from. Okay. Well, so so you're in high school, you graduate high school. Now, do you meet your first wife at that point, or do you go in the military first, in the Army first?
I went, actually, I didn't go into college right away. I went and started working for my mother. My mother owned 2 nursing homes, and I went to work for her. And then plus I volunteered in hospitals, volunteered in soup kitchens, joined up with the Cub Scouts, Webelos, all that good shit, all when I was growing up. But what I did do is I joined the Naval Sea Cadet Corps. And so I was participating in Naval Sea Cadet Corps and plus working for my mom at the same time.
Right.
And so that was really cool. I liked the Naval Sea Cadet Corps, and the Naval Sea Cadet Corps liked me. But the problem is that at the time I couldn't swim worth a shit. So the idea of me being in the Navy was kind of actually a crazy idea. You know?
Right. Well, did you get in that program because of your father, I guess? And
yes and no. Yes and no. Yes, you know, obviously Dad being a career Navy man had something to do with it, but I wanted it for the camaraderie. You know, I wanted it for the camaraderie, and also too, all along that line, I'm just doing martial arts too. So, you know, I had a friend of mine, trying to think of his name. It wasn't Bob Garrison. That was somebody else, but he was one to turn me on the Naval Sea Cadet Corps because he was already in. The interesting thing about the Naval Sea Cadet Corps, at least what I was doing, I can't speak for everybody, but what I was doing was that I was taking these tests, and I would, you know, where you fill in the little box. You know, you have several boxes to choose from. You got to fill in the correct answer with the box with the number 2 pencil, right? Like you're doing an SAT, right? And these tests were to be an officer in the real Navy. Okay.
Right.
So you know, because and the reason I bring that point up is because there's a lot of, oh, well, Naval Sea Cadet Corps ain't shit. It's just a bunch, you know. No. I can't speak for how they are today, and I can't speak for anybody else. But when I was in the Naval Sea Cadet Corps, my purpose for being there was to be a real officer in the real Navy.
Right.
Period.
Right.
You know, now I did a few drills every now and then on drill deck and whatnot, but my purpose for being was to be an actual officer in the real Navy. Okay, so they can say what they want about the Naval Sea Cadet Corps. I don't care, because I know what I've done in my life. They don't. All right.
Well, let me ask you this, Vaughn, because they're just programming note for everybody out there. If you want to ask a question, I'll try to get to them as many as we can before the broadcast ends. We're running this till about 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. You can send questions to the program on Google Plus, or you can actually put them in the chat log on the YouTube feed. And the question actually comes from Mr. Scott Craighead. It says, has Vaughn always been a kind and honest person?
No. No, I have not. No, I have not. Because I actually was ridiculed in school somewhat, like I alluded to earlier. But it wasn't because of my fangs. It was because, like I said, I just a hair's breadth above everybody else, and they didn't like shit. So yeah, I got picked on, I got harassed, I got mocked, ridiculed, and that drove me to seeking out less scrupulous individuals, shall we say.
Right.
Culminating up into hanging out with people who really were legitimately dangerous. Satanists, particularly Luciferian Satanists. And of course I got out of that shit as soon as I realized what the hell was going on, right?
Right.
You know, but the fact that I let myself get that low was quite disturbing to even me. But yeah, I admit it. I hung out with bad people for a while. Right. And I was a bad person myself for a while. Dangerous, even. I mean, you know, if you had tried to do something to me, I'd just soon kill you as to look at you. You know? And, of course, I'm not that way. Well, depends, you know. I mean, if you're a dangerous person, I'm going to be just as dangerous right back.
Right.
You know, if you're a nice person, then you ain't got nothing to worry about, right? Right.
Well, let me backtrack for a minute about the Navy Sea Corps cadets before we get into your military career or whatever. that was for about around what ages were you in that? I've been kind of thought that they were around 11 to 17, so you were in that.
Yeah, I was in there. I was in there. Well, now see, I was in there 2.5 years,
Right.
and I'm trying to. I'm trying to think of the dates. Probably about 80, 80, 81, 80, 81, 82, something like that. Because I went into the army. I went into the army in December of '82, so it had to have been before then. Had to.
Okay, so I was thinking maybe that was like a ROTC and everything that you were in, maybe in high school or whatever. So that was after high school. Is that right?
During and after, perhaps. During and after. Like I said, I was in there 2.5 years.
Okay, well let's just say maybe that was around high school age.
Yeah, around high school.
Yeah,
that's a safe bet.
Yeah.
That's a safe bet. And like I said, I was working for my mom in the nursing homes, and then also volunteering in hospitals as well. So I was a busy little beaver. You know, I always have been. Let me bring that point up because there's this idea out there that's going around. Oh, VonHelton's a lazy bum. He's sucking off the government. He ain't no hard worker. Blah 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 blah. But see, all through my history, that's all I've done is bust my ass. I didn't get paid a whole lot for it, but I always was busting my ass doing one thing or the other.
Right.
And then not to mention the multitude of freelance stuff that I did.
Right. So you're out of high school. You're working for your parents, basically, in this whole thing of nursing homes and sick kitchens. When does the military come calling? When does that call come?
Well, I hadn't really wanted to do any college yet, and I don't remember actually why I put the college stuff off, but I did. But I didn't want to go into college yet. But now here's the thing that kind of upset me. Is when I went to the Naval Recruiting Office to go from Naval Sea Cadet Corps to actual Navy. They told me they wouldn't apply my 2.5 years to my naval career, and that really upset me. That even my dad was mad because Dad said, "Well, hey, this guy's been busting his ass doing these tests to become a real naval officer, and you're not gonna count that towards his naval career." And the Navy recruiter said, "No, we're not." And Dad was mad. He was furious.
Right. Had you thought about applying to Annapolis or whatever?
Well, what I ended up doing was I know you can. I got the door in the way. Or chair in the way. There.
Got hungry.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm in an interview right now.
Fun.
Yes. So anyway, I went on ahead and Dad was mad. Dad was mad. I was mad, and so I went across the hall to the Army and seen what the Army had to offer.
Right.
And I said, and it was funny. I said, is there anything you could give me that has nothing to do with water? and they said, well, as a matter of fact, we can take you out to Fort Hood, Texas, for your first permanent duty station. There ain't nothing but desert all around it. I said, that sounds good to me. So I talked with the Army recruiter a little bit more, and he signed me up as an armor crewman.
Right.
M60A3 with TTS, for those of you that actually know what the hell that is. 19 Echo was my MOS. And so I took my and ironically, my basic in AIT was right here in Kentucky. But see, at the time I lived in Ohio, so I still had to commute. Go figure.
Right.
But now, see, with an armor crewman back in the 80s, it's different than what it was today.
Right.
Because my AIT and basic was all combined into one thing.
Right.
Okay. So it ain't like today where you got the basic and then you got your AIT. Mine was all combined in one thing.
Right.
So I took my basic and AIT here in Fort Knox, Kentucky, and then they shipped me out to Fort Hood, Texas, and the very first thing they done, the very first thing they done to me when I joined the Army is they took all of us and single filed us into a building and up a real tall ladder. I'm like, what in the hell is this? Because the ladder had a tube around it. You couldn't see where the hell it was going, right?
Right.
Filed us all up this big ass ladder with this tube around it, and got us up to the top. And I got up to the top of that motherfucker, and you know what it was? It was a 50-foot diving board into a huge vat of water. The exact opposite of what I asked them to do for me. And they said, well, you got to take off your BDU pants and hold them out here like this. And so I take off my BDU pants and I hold them out here like this, and I jump off the diving pool. It took 3 Navy SEALs to pull my ass out of the bottom of the fucking pool. All right, 3 of them.
Well, let me ask you this. I wanted to kind of get to that, get the question there. So how long were you in the Army?
I was in the Army 9.5 months. 9.5 months. But then, but the reason I was in 9.5 months is because I was waiting on a transfer, and the captain could not make good on the transfer. In fact, he told me, he said, I got bad news. You know, the transfer has been delayed up to a year because of budget cuts and all this other crap. He explained it all to me. And, you know, bureaucratic red tape, basically, is what held up my transfer. And I'm like, well, what do I do, Captain? And he said, well, you have 2 choices. You can either stay in and wait a year for your transfer, or you can transfer into civilian life and go that route. And I'm like, well, you know, I really don't want to hang around here doing nothing but Susie Homemaker for a year. You know, I want to be out in the field. See, the whole point of it is that I wanted to be out in the field with my tank. I mean, that's what I was trained to do, right?
Right.
Be out in the field with my tank, doing what tankers do. And I couldn't do that. You know, for whatever, you know, they you know, the captain, lieutenant, all of them told me, said, we just ain't got the money to take you out to the field. And I'm like, okay, fine, you know, transfer me to a unit that can. And you know, and then it come back, well, you know, the transfer's delayed for a year. You know, how would you like to go into civilian life and still work for the government? And see, at the time, there wasn't all this animosity against the government per se. You know, or at least it wasn't on my end. You know, I guess I really probably should have watched some more spy movies and shit to get me ready for that. But you know, at the time, I still, you know, you know, I didn't hate my government at the time.
Right.
And you know, it's like, you know, okay, sure, I'll go into civilian work, and you know, of course, it's far removed from being a tanker, obviously.
Right.
But there were a lot of occasions I got to wear a 3-piece suit, so that was cool.
Right.
Of course, and by the same token, there were times that I was crawling through fucking gullies and everything else that you can imagine.
Right.
So you know, but obviously I'm not allowed to discuss the civilian aspects.
Civilian stuff, yeah. I can understand that.
I'm just not allowed.
I have friends of mine that
Well, the point I want to stress, though, is that I serve my country to the best of my ability and with honor and distinction, and ain't no troll, no hater can take that away from me. Okay? I don't give a fuck what they say about me. I don't give a fuck what they think about me. I serve my country with duty, honor, integrity, and you know, that's the way it is. And if they don't like it, they can kiss my red ass. And you know, and the bitch of it is, here's the bitch of it though. The bitch of it is that I typically, particularly in the civilian mode, I did shit that most people did not want to do. Okay, and it's like, well, let's get the gopher to do it, right? You know, and you know, and so, you know, I did shit that nobody wanted to do, only to now fast forward here to 2013 and see what's happening in my country today. You know, because I was a Cold War veteran. Okay, our job was to stop communism. Period. That's our job as a Cold War vet, was to stop communism. And communism at the time was spreading all over the goddamn place. We literally thought that communism was going to take over the world.
Right.
And it was our duty as Cold War military personnel and civilian personnel to stop that by any means necessary.
Right.
Oh, Mr. Nixon, you know.
Let's go on a little bit further because we've only got an hour here, and we may have to do a part 2 later on and everything, because I know there's so much stuff to get into. with you because I have so much to ask and everything. So yeah, we're definitely gonna have to do a part 2 here. Because the last 10 minutes of this interview, I'm gonna actually do the. We'll ask you 10 questions and get the answers from you. Anyway, but okay, so you're in the military. You go into civilian life, to civilian side of the military. How long did you do that? How long did you? How long was that a part of your life?
Several years.
So,
But again, I can't. I'm not at liberty to tell you how much.
I understand. I understand.
You know,
Well,
I can just say it was several years.
right.
Let's you know.
Well,
Now, in the past, I might have said it was 3 years or 5 years. I might have even said in the past it was 10 years. But
right.
I can't really tell you how long it is. I'm not allowed.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let me ask you this. Okay, so you're in the military. You go to the civilian side of the military into that. When did you get married? What was the first marriage? How did that? When did that?
My first marriage was when I was working for my mother in the nursing homes. That's where
Okay.
I met. That's where I met my first wife. I married young, admittedly, and she believe it or not, she was actually 1 year older than me.
Okay.
You know, so that all this talk about, oh, Von's looking for young women, blah 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 blah. My first wife was 1 year older than me, trolls and haters. How do you explain that one, you dumb fucks? Anyway, so you know, but that was that was my first marriage. I was young, she was young, and you know.
So how long were y'all married?
Well, that's what I'm trying to remember. Was I 18? Was I 19? I think it was 19.
5 years, 10 years.
Dude, it's all peach fuzz, man. I'd have to dig up actual documents for you.
Okay. So, but you did have. I know you've alluded to it before, but just for those people out there that don't know, you ended up having children, 2 children. Is it right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And what happened with that?
Both children were dead. Both children died at birth. The first child lived an hour and 15 minutes after it was born, and it actually was given a name, Clayton Eugene. And the second child that we tried to have, it died it died just prior to being born.
Okay.
And it was not given a name because it was not outside the womb, obviously.
Right.
So, and so both of my children died. Yes.
Okay. Well, so let's say, okay, for shits and giggles, you're married for a couple of years, maybe 2 or 3 years or whatever. When did the marriage? What happened? What caused the marriage to end? Was it the children's passing, or what was it?
Well, the children's passing may have had something to do with it, but actually one of my wife's relatives was manipulating things behind the scenes, without my knowledge and without her knowledge even. He was manipulating things because he did not want, his name was Johnny Johnson, and he did not want me marrying Pam at all. He did not want me marrying her. And he wanted his buddy, he wanted her to marry his buddy. And this all came out publicly later on. But he wanted her to marry his buddy. And so what he was doing is he would tell Pam about a job opportunity, an alleged job opportunity. And then she would tell me, and I would go out there and, you know, try to get that job and work it, right? And then what he would do is he would have his buddy that was already there working to just make my life a living hell as long as I was there. Then when I either had to quit or was fired or whatever, then he would go running back to Pam and say, oh, look, he's a lazy bum and doesn't want to work, he won't keep a job.
Right.
And she actually bought into this shit. She actually believed it. That was the scary part, is that she actually believed it. And so time ran on in our marriage. We were married for 3 years. And time ran on in my marriage to where that my wife would not touch me. And you know what I mean by touching. She would not touch me. In fact, she would go for months at a time without touching me. And see, stupid me, stupid naive me, I didn't put 2 and 2 together. I just figured she was a crazy chick, you know. Of course, now I realize that if she ain't touching me, she's touching somebody else. But, but at the time I was naive and stupid, and I didn't, and I tried to be understanding. So I just let it go, for a while. And like I said, he came forward after the fact and admitted to all this shit. So I'm not saying nothing that isn't out there.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But yeah, he manipulated the whole damn thing. And he said this in front of witnesses, mind you. So, but yeah, he manipulated the whole goddamn thing. Destroyed my marriage.
Right. Okay.
And
Right. Well, so your marriage ends. Is that during the time period you're in the military, or is that before the military?
Yeah, it wasn't long after that I went into the military.
Okay. So you go through the military thing, and you're doing that, and you're doing the civilian side and everything. And so what brings you from Hamilton, Ohio, to Manchester, Kentucky?
My mother's relatives are all down here, down in this general area.
Right.
And she for whatever reason, I still don't fully understand or comprehend her reasoning. Mm-hmm. But for some unknown reason, she wanted to come down here to be close to her family.
Right.
And, at the time, I was in between jobs, and, there was also some other things that I was trying to do. I was trying to get, what I was trying to do is get a business started. Mm-hmm. And right in the midst of all that, she's like, well, I want to move to Kentucky. And, it's like, what? Because at the time, I didn't have no other place to go except to go with her. And so that's exactly what I did. I come down here with her. Now, don't get me wrong, this is great, because I've got 2 ridges to protect me from tornadoes. The only way somebody could attack would be from the road, which I can see easily. So it's really, I got free heat coming out of a mountain. I got a maid here. Okay, I really do. I got a maid here. There isn't no jobs down here, but I got it made. Mm-hmm. So I like it here.
Right.
But at the time, it's like, Kentucky, what the hell? But we come down here, and I've been down here ever since. Been down here for, I guess, roughly about 15, 20 years, give or take.
Right.
Like I said, I don't have the exact dates. I'd have to look them up.
So did both your parents, your dad and your mom, move to Kentucky, or was it just your mom?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they both come down here, and, like I said, subsequently thereafter, my father passed. So.
Okay. Yeah. Well, let's just talk a little bit about your computer career before we get into the 10 questions. Like I said, around about 8:50, I'm going to ask you those. We're going to be kind of lightning fast and everything. So, the thing is, you got into computers. You have mentioned before you were on Delphi forums or whatever like that. I don't know. I'm not familiar with that website.
Mm-hmm.
But could you tell us a little bit about it and how you got involved and interested in computers?
Well, actually, my interest predates that. I was fiddling with all kinds of electronics long before then. I mean, I had an Atari, I had an Amiga, I had an old Commodore 64. I had all kinds of stuff that predated the internet, predated computers, and that was something else that I was fiddling with, was, computers and that sort of thing. Up to including possibly even working in my garage with somebody else. Just like what Bill Gates did. The only problem is that Bill Gates got funding and I didn't, but that's another story for another day. Point is that I was doing pretty much the same damn thing. Didn't really go anywhere though, because I couldn't get a partner and I couldn't get funding. And so I gave up on that little aspect. But I had been messing around with stuff for a long time. Long before there was an internet, they had this software that you could call into with your old 300 baud modem, and once you logged in with that software, you then could talk to a bunch of people with ANSI text. And this was on the Tandy 1000 HX, Okay, my whopping 2 colors. You know, I'm styling because I got 2 colors, man. I'm kicking ass, right? You know,
Right.
and you know, but it was called the software was called Procom Plus, and you would use it to call in to a hub, and then from that hub, then you would go to other destinations. But you know, and then that led into what they called the Wildcat BBS service, which was just one service, by the way. There were many, many BBS services, but Wildcat was one I was on, which is kind of ironic because Kentucky's mascot is the Wildcat. Tell me there isn't synchronicity in the world, right?
Right.
But anyways, so you know, I'm on the Wildcat BBS, and even back then, I'm telling them about what I found out about conspiracy theories and extraterrestrial entities and shit like that. I was talking about that stuff even back then, long before there was an internet. And but when the 088 come out, the IBM 088 come out, an actual computer came out. There was this new company called America Online, and it's going to revolutionize everything. And I said, I want to be a beta tester. I want to be in on that shit. So I went and applied to be beta tester for AOL, and I got it. And I beta tested America Online. I beta tested Genie. I beta tested Prodigy. Let's see, what were some of the other ones that I beta tested? I can't think of some of the others right offhand. But all this pre-internet and early internet stuff, I was right there. Beta testing it, you know, telling people what I thought about it, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
We came up, those of us who were on the AOL beta team came up with an idea because we got tired of saying the same shit over and over and over again. Because when you're a beta tester, you had to tell them, you know, what was going on. And a bunch of us sat down and got together and said, you know, this saying the same shit over and over, typing the same stuff over and over again is for the birds. We need an abbreviation system. And I said, well, how about this? How about we take the first letter of each word and we use that as the abbreviation? And they said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, how about for laugh out loud, it'll be LOL. How about for be right back, it'll be BRB. And the other people in the beta test are like, hey, that sounds like a great idea. And so we started that. We pioneered the abbreviations that we use on the internet today, way back when in AOL's beta.
Right. Okay.
Believe it or not.
There are a lot of people on that team, right? So.
Yeah. Well, there was a lot. Yeah, there was. If I recall correctly, there was quite a few people on that team.
Yeah.
Right. It was at least 20 people, if not more.
Right.
But I was the one that said, you know, here's some of my ideas for abbreviations, and other people come up with other abbreviations too. I wasn't the only one.
Right. Well, let me ask you real quick because we've only got about
15 minutes.
About 15 minutes, yeah. And I want to get these questions in. In fact, I'm going to ask you 2 questions. I'll ask you actually 1 question. I actually put it twice. And this comes from Mamsie Graham. Graham asked, did you keep a journal of your adventures or like a memoir?
No. No, when I went in fact, one of the conditions of going from the military into the civilian aspect was that I kept no paper trail of any kind. Okay. And I didn't. You know, because I had a sworn agreement with my government, and one of the conditions of that agreement is that there would be no paper trail of any kind.
Okay, I can understand that. Yeah, I have a couple of friends of mine that are in the military right now that have do some really clandestine jobs and everything like that they can talk to me about sometimes. So I understand the need for military secrecy. And
life is like a box of chocolates.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, we're definitely have to do a part 2 in this because there's so much I want to cover with you. We want to cover some of the infamous moments in the history of VonHelton on YouTube and on the internet, of course, and let you have your say about those. But I want to go ahead and throw out this questionnaire. It's called the excuse me right now. I'll probably butcher the hell out of this name, but this was basically Bernard Pivot, Pivot. I'm bad with French pronunciations and everything, but it's made famous by one of my favorite shows on TV. Actually, I think it's on A&E now. Oh, it's been on A&E, always been on A&E, I think. Called Inside the Actors Studio, hosted by James Lipton. And he asked 10 questions, and I'm just kind of curious to get your answer to those 10 questions and everything. So that's the 10 questions I'll ask you. And then, of course, we'll see if anybody has any questions out there before we go. We end this broadcast and then go live with the Wolfpack Hangout Club tonight. Just to let everybody know real quick, a programming note. There will be no discussion of someone with the initials BK. I am not. I appreciate everybody's discussions about the person and over the last week and everything. I've had enough. I think everybody else has had enough about it.
I've had enough.
Start discussing it. I will give you one warning about it. The second warning, I will kick you. So fair warning. You've been warned. The other thing is we're going to talk a little bit about movies and kind of a pop culture hangout. We're going to talk a little bit about TV shows, movies, comic books if it comes into that, video games, whatever else. It's a pop culture hangout tonight. Anyway, go ahead and get these out of the way, Vaughn. Right. What is your favorite word?
My favorite word.
Mm-hmm.
Favorite word?
Mm-hmm.
Die.
Die? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Your least favorite word?
I don't have one. I don't think I have one. No.
Okay. I have one, but I'll do that later. What turns you on?
Sex.
Well, let me clarify. What turns you on creatively, spiritually, emotionally?
I have to say it, exploration, man.
Okay.
I love to tinker. I love to explore. When I was a kid, I used to take shit apart and see what made it tick, you know.
Right.
And when I was a kid, I would go out exploring in the woods just to see what's out there.
Right.
And and I'm the same way now. I if somebody said, "Hey, Vaughn, get on this starship and go exploring the galaxy," I'm like, "Fuck yes, I'm there, dude."
Right.
I'd be the first one to sign up for that shit.
Okay. What turns you off?
What turns me off? Hypocrisy. Oh God, I can't stand hypocrisy. I can't stand that shit.
What's your favorite curse word?
My favorite curse word. All of them? I don't know.
If you had to pick one.
If I had to pick one? Fuck them motherfuckers! I don't know, dude. I don't know.
What sound or noise do you love?
What sound or noise do I love?
Mm-hmm.
The sound a woman makes when she's in the throes of affection.
Wow. Okay. As our esteemed colleague would say, that's bigoted. Anyway, what sound or noise do you hate?
The grinding of metal. And I'm being serious. I do. I hate that noise. I hate the grinding sound of metal.
Okay.
Always have. Even when I was a kid, I hated the sound of grinding metal. I don't know why. Maybe it's something from a past life or something.
Right. What profession other than your own, being a computer guy, would you like to attempt?
Well, like I said, space exploration, dude.
Okay.
That's the shit for me. If they said tomorrow, get in this ship and go explore the galaxy, I'm gone, man. See ya. You'll never see me again. I'm gone. I'm out of here.
What profession would you not like to attempt?
I've already done all the shitty professions that you can possibly think of.
Mm-hmm.
I guess scrubbing toilets. I don't know.
Okay. And the last question.
That too.
the last out of the 10, of course, we'll take questions from the audience at this point. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Here's your next mission.
Okay.
I'm serious.
Okay.
Here's your next mission. You completed your first mission, here's your next one. Because if you didn't complete the first one, he wouldn't say that, would he? Right? No, he wouldn't. He would say, well, you fucked up, you got to go back and do your first mission again. So, you know, if I get up there, I want him to say, here's your next mission. Or he's going to turn me into a statue, put me in the halls of Valhalla, and I'm going to have birds shit on me for all eternity. One or the other, you know.
We have a question from the audience. One question I will not repeat, Miss Tanya. Serious questions here. Miss Tanya Perry. What kind of smoothie sounds are really good right now?
What kind of one now?
Movie sounds.
Movie sounds. Movie sounds.
Smoothie.
Oh, smoothie sounds.
Yeah, I guess I don't know what that means.
I get, you know, when you're making the smoothie, you know, the machine goes, right? I guess is that what you mean?
Oh, okay. What kind of? I'm sorry, brain freeze from the smoothie there. What kind of smoothie sounds really good, right?
Oh, what kind of smoothie?
Yes.
Dude, I'm all about peanut butter. I love peanut butter. Peanut butter ice cream, peanut butter shake, peanut butter smoothies, peanut butter candy. I mean, I love peanut butter. I'm crazy about
because they
it.
introduced you to Reese's peanut butter cup.
Oh Lord, I was eating peanut butter long before you got here. You know, it was funny when back when my metabolism was real high, I'd get these big $5 tubs of peanut butter, and I'd sit that motherfucker right by my desk, and I'm eating peanut butter out of this tub, and I got me a big 2-liter Mountain Dew, and that was my day, okay, and I never gained a pound. Amazing. Of course, my metabolism was my metabolism was like hers back there, is through the fucking roof, you know. So yeah, peanut butter, Now another one of my favorite flavors is butterscotch. I love butterscotch. I am nuts about butterscotch.
Mine used to be.
Okay. Well, that's that's a good one. I guess. You know what? Just for shits and giggles, I'll ask it. Miss Tanya asked, "Would you scratch a crotch itch in public?"
Have I ever scratched my crotch in public?
Would you?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have. I'm a guy. All guys. I know there's got to. I would never do something unseemly as scratch my crotch in the public. Bullshit, you lying motherfucker. Because if you did it, you might not have done it and not known it, but you done it. So I don't want to hear that crazy shit. I'm too dignified to do something like that. Bullshit.
I'll tell everybody I don't know you.
Yeah, well, that's, I mean, if you got an itch, you're going to instinctively scratch it. You may not realize you might do it and not even realize you done it. But
Right.
if you got an itch, typically you're going to scratch it, yes.
Right.
It doesn't matter where that itch is. It doesn't necessarily have to be the crotch either. It can be your arm, your leg, your head, whatever. If you got an itch, you're going to scratch it.
Right. Okay.
I'm assuming she's referring to a literal itch that you have and that you
Yeah,
scratch.
I guess she is referring to just that. Well, I'm going to see if we have any more questions. If not, then we'll probably end up ending the broadcast and everything on this interview. Like I said, we'll probably do a part 2 if Von's up for it tomorrow night or whatever, and we'll kind of talk about the more controversial subjects in Von's life and everything. And some of the infamous things that have happened a little bit. But
I was
of course,
trying to
everybody
Started shaking his head. It was so
go
funny.
to Devon's channel. What is your name of your channel, Vaughn?
YouTube.com/VonHelton, VonHelton.
User VonHelton, right?
Well, yeah, /user/VonHelton, yeah.
Okay. Look him up on there, and you can follow him at Twitter at Baron VonHelton.
Yeah, some troll took the name Von Helton apparently, so I had to call myself Baron Von Helton.
Baron VonHelton. Okay, I actually like that name better than I do the other one. I like the Baron VonHelton better.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, appreciate everybody tuning in to watch. Of course, we are going to be going live here in a few minutes with the Wolfpack Hangout Club edition of the show, as it were. And we'll, like I said, we'll do a follow-up, part 2 of this. And I'm going to try my best to talk a gentleman by the name of Earl into doing the second edition of this the interview show here. See if I can get him.
Well, I survived, Earl, so if I can do it, you can do it.
Yeah, I think we can. I think we'll see if we can get him on the tap. I definitely want to get, of course, everybody that is a member of our Wolfpack Hangout Club group here to do an interview.
Sure.
Anyway, appreciate everybody tuning in, and of course, stay tuned for part 2. And for everybody coming across to the Wolfpack Hangout Club, we'll be going live here in a few minutes. So we'll get set up, and we'll talk to you later.
Yay!
Yeah.